What's new in filmmaking technology this week? News, reviews, education, insights, opinions, and ideas from the CineD Newsroom with Nino and Johnny Bahiri. This is Focus Check, the weekly Cinetech podcast.
Welcome everybody to episode 8 of CineD Focus Check. We're here in Vegas with Johnnie and Graham.
Hi guys, how are you? Graham,
good.
good. Nino, how was it?
Tiring.
I was just thinking, I think is this the first time we've ever been on camera, the three of us? No.
We've been working 8 years together
Yeah,
at least, and it's the first time that we are on the couch.
Well, some people thought we were the same person, just with different hair.
That happened yesterday.
Yeah,
and
it's like,
my hair is very different.
Somebody
you
asked,
too?
somebody asked me if I'm Graham. Seriously.
I get asked, I talked to you yesterday, and I'm like, no, you didn't. That was Nino.
Yeah. By the way, just apologies to our audience. If you hear background noise, we set up the podcast. We are here the last day of the show. So we really need to get going with the podcast. And the second we were done, suddenly it started drilling because they are renovating the convention center. So we have to live with this. Sorry about that. If you're listening to the audio episode, driving a new car, it's not your car. It's somebody
welding,
disassembling the building around us because next year this hall will not be functional. But yeah, let's talk about NAB. So we had a very successful show. I think we shot 54 videos.
Jeez.
3 of us were on camera for all of them. It's amazing. I mean, so far, we're recording this on the Wednesday. You're listening to this probably on the Thursday or later. We have only released a third of those videos, so we will keep those NAB videos coming for the next couple of weeks, I guess.
Yeah.
The same goes for social media. We created a lot of social media content. Really a big shout out for Fujifilm, who supported us with a social media team, actually 2 teams we had. And if you remember, we also had, a month ago, we asked the community just to send us stuff, and then we chose 2 people to work with us. And we had Nick and Forrest, who proved to be really amazing guys. It was so much fun to work with them. And the social media team was led by Jackie, Dima, and Kasper. And the rest of the team, I think altogether, both teams, we were like 18 people. I can't even believe it.
Yeah, it was a huge... We used to make fun of outlets that did came with like 20 people in the past, and now we are the ones.
Don't mention names. Yeah.
So, but guys, what are your highlights of the show? We all did different videos, so I guess we also didn't have actually a chance to watch all the videos that the others did. So, Johnny, what was your favorite, your personal favorite interview, or maybe 2 favorites?
It's hard to... Okay. The first interview, actually, is not so much of it is a product, but I spoke to a gentleman by the name Bob Poole. He's a cinematographer from Kenya, together with Victor Ha from Fujifilm. And Bob literally took the big Duvo, the 25 1000 millimeter, which is it's a beast. Yeah, he literally constructed the whole thing on his vehicle and went through the safari to look for elephants. There is a very nice interview, and at the end it is about equipment too, but it's more about the feeling and the atmosphere of how it is to work with such a setup, which sounds completely crazy. So that will be an upcoming interview. The other one with Sarah from Blazer. They released, they announced the release of Blazer Kato 2 times anamorphic lenses, and those are, you can't have it all, but they are compact and they look really great. Of course, the T-stops are not equivalent. I hope the ceiling will not fall on our head in a second.
Sounds like it.
But again, it's just nice to see a company that is trying to take or to care about people. And the price is very competitive. It will be very competitive. It's not disclosed yet, but it will be probably competitive. That's my kind of highlight. There were many more, but when you ask me out of the sleeve, that's what came to my mind. And for you, Graham?
Yeah, I'm just glad we're able to talk about this because usually we don't get to kind of, have a little post-show, post-mortem here.
That we have to spend like 2 weeks watching all the videos that everybody else did.
Yeah, exactly. For me, it was from Core, actually. So Core, classically known as a battery manufacturer. And it's funny. So if you watch the progression of the interview, I'm like, okay, cool, a cable and some new batteries. And then like about halfway through the interview from Ross, who's the CEO of Core, I sort of start to understand exactly what is happening. I'll break that down for you here. So if you've worked with 12G SDI ports, and ARRI came out with white papers about this a few years ago, but essentially there's a specific protocol you have to obey to, disconnect and connect, and to make sure that you're not overwhelming the 12G port using the power coming through your DTAP. Okay, little inside baseball, but Google it. It's a problem for thousands of filmmakers. It's no different. Sony users, Alexa, Red Komodo. I hear a lot about it from Red Komodo users. Essentially, if you have a 12G port on your camera, it could be a thing. And what the USB PD.
Sorry, just to interrupt. The problem being that they basically tell you to plug and unplug those power cords in a certain order
sequence,
in order not to kind of break things, right? Otherwise, it results in a very expensive repair of the camera.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And, thousands and thousands of dollars for filmmakers just over the past couple years. And it always bugged me a little bit, right? Because it should never be, I think, user error that a camera is fried. You know what I mean? Why would we say, okay, fine, it's the user's responsibility to save their camera? I always thought it should be a manufacturer solve.
Well, it's a design problem, like
exactly.
if they don't figure it out, they should figure it out.
We had something like this with another manufacturer, which I will not mention here, many years ago. If you took the lens out of the camera when the camera was still on and put it back, the camera will be fried.
Oh yeah, happened to me. Happened to me. The manufacturer starts with a C. Yeah, okay. It's fair to say.
So anyway, halfway through this conversation with Ross from Core, I sort of figure out, oh my gosh, this totally bypasses this. You don't need to worry about SDI power connection protocols anymore. Sort of the side effect of this is you have to be bought into Core's ecosystem. So you need to have Core's newest batteries. So pros and cons with that if you have a bunch of,
But at least they solve it.
At least they've solved it.
Fair enough that the kind of part of the deal is that you have to use their batteries then, because it makes sense, right?
Yeah, and I talked to Ross off camera. I'm sure he would be fine with me saying this. And he's like, I want to license this connector to as many companies as possible. I'm like, great. However that works out, please make that happen. So yeah, number one for me, strangely, I guess, out of NAB, a surprise and a cable. Yeah. I guess number two for me would be Blackmagic 17K. I'm sure you're going to get into 12K maybe, Nino. I don't know. But the conversations around the 17K in the comments on the CineD YouTube have just been, hilarious. But a lot of also Blackmagic being patted on the back for trying this.
Let's me recap. Is that a camera?
A camera.
Is it a camera?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so what Johnny's alluding to here is a few of you went into the comments. Well, essentially in the interview, I say, I don't think of this as an A camera, like a camera. And it's a B-C camera. And many of you were like, this is absurd. Why would you say, this isn't an A camera? A camera, ABC, is a designation on set. If you want to shoot 17K for a month and a half on your feature film, by all means, that is your A camera. I have yet to work anywhere where that's possible.
Well, if you shoot for the Sphere here in Las Vegas, you need 18K, right?
Exactly.
But spherical.
even when I shoot on Alexa bodies, I rarely shoot RAW because no post-process / storage workflow on the planet can handle that. The biggest projects. So that was what I was alluding to. So for me, 17K cameras from Blackmagic, again in the prototype phase, we're not sure. I hope it comes to market. I hope it's amazing. To me, it feels like an E camera that you take out for VFX plates, and D is your drone, and C is your Steadicam.
Well, to be fair enough, I mean it's a 65mm sensor, and on the 12K Cine that they just announced, you are able to downsample, so you don't have to shoot 12K if you want to shoot lower resolution. Unlike RED cameras, where you always crop into the image, right? If you want to stay with RED RAW. Yeah. So with Blackmagic RAW, you can do 4K and I think 8K on the 12K camera. Yeah. So I guess it will also be possible on the 17K once it's available, which is just an announcement anyway. So we didn't have the camera actually to dry, but the 12K Cine is finished. Yeah.
Yeah, so TBD. But anyway, so please comment on the 12K video. If you have
But
thoughts.
where do you think? I mean, do you think this camera has a market, or is it just like crazy technology demonstration?
Over the years, I think Blackmagic, people throwing out these sort of big numbers, and I've actually always appreciated, from a resolution perspective, and I've actually always appreciated that because I like the chutzpah of that. You know what I mean? It's like, let's just keep pushing sensor technology as far as we possibly can. At prices, Blackmagic pricing has always been just incredibly affordable and very pro filmmaker, and how they handle the pricing around Resolve, et cetera, et cetera. I like the chutzpah of it, so to speak, to even be putting that out there. But for me, I mean, first use case I mentioned in the video would be like VFX plates. That's the first thing I can think of, or even just getting shots of Everest on 17K, and then putting that in a licensed library. I mean, things like that make a lot of sense. Or car driving plates, right? All those immediately jump to mind.
Yeah, and
For you, Nino. I mean,
Nino.
what was?
Well, I did the interviews with about the 12K and the Pixis camera. I mean, the funny backstory about this is like when we were flying over here, luckily we had a plane which had Wi-Fi, so we booked the streaming package, and we didn't. Well, we knew that like Blackmagic had a time set for a release, which we had, and we thought it's after we land, and then suddenly we realized. I think you told me there's like a countdown. And on the plane, and the internet on the plane is spotty at best, which is it's crazy enough that you can have internet on the plane or watch videos. And then we realized, well, the Grand Patty live stream is starting while we were up in the air. So I kind of managed to watch 3 hours of him talking, pulling out more and more and more products. And we only, like the 12K camera, we released a video when it came out. But there was a lot more, which we were completely unaware of. And so, of course, we reported about it while we were in the air, which was an interesting experience. And then the next day or 2 days later, when the show started, we did the interviews. And the 12K camera, we will talk about the CineD Best of Show awards like in a minute. Like we selected a number of products that we think are the best that we saw, some of which we already talked about. And one of them is also the 12K camera, because not so much as a camera per se, but more the innovation that is inside that camera, because there's some really smart ideas in it. Now, I don't know if it's really, it's a camera that can replace a very high-end camera, simply because I think it's like a marathon game for those manufacturers. I think Blackmagic has still to go quite a big way to replace an Alexa or something like that on a big set. But I can definitely see them like on medium-sized sets or even a television series.
Well, maybe it goes the route of the creator, with the FX3. Maybe it becomes something like that.
Of course. I mean, what's amazing about them is that basically all of their cameras shoot 12K RAW. And you can combine them all, and they are very, very well integrated with our whole post-production workflow. So that is really the camera to cloud that they have. The Blackmagic cloud is great. But some of the innovations that we saw there, I mean, one that just comes to mind, of course, you have those monitors for the operator and for the assistant. And usually it's either the one or the other. So you have a camera that is made for like a big set workflow where most of the controls are on the assistant side, like for example the Venice or the Alexas and so on. But the Burano, for example, has all the controls on the operator side, so it's clearly made for kind of like
run and gun doc, maybe.
Well, run and gun, but a higher end documentary. And it's hard for an assistant to work with that because they don't have all the controls there. And this camera tries to do both, so you can access the whole menu from both sides. You have both of them have 5-inch monitors to control everything. Now there might be other issues with that. Do you really want a monitor on the side of the camera on a set that's glowing? You need to switch. I guess you can switch it off too, but it's just something to consider. You don't want a camera to kind of glow in the dark. But there's a really nice way of actually having all the lens controls and seeing all the aperture. They integrate with the Cook Eye protocol. So and on the assistant side, you have you see where you are with focus, you see the aperture, everything, and the assistant can actually set markers. So like without having a follow focus on there, you can just set markers and kind of like remember where this lens is. Every lens is automatically fully calibrated when you put it on, and it's smart. I mean, it's just for the assistants. I think there's a lot that they added. And in general, just having this access to the full menu from both sides, that alone is a lot.
And it's all for like 17,000? No.
15,000.
It's a big number for Blackmagic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a big number for Blackmagic.
But don't forget what the camera actually. It's a package. It's not only a camera. You get 8 terabytes of storage.
That's true.
It's a new concept of storage. It's a whole cloud camera to cloud workflow, small things, base plate and so on. But let's see what this takes us with that camera. I also want to mention the 6K Pixie.
Just one more thing on that. I just wanted to expand on what you said about the memory, because that's a very good point. I mean, for any other manufacturer, you don't get the memory with it. If you think about having the sometimes very expensive memory that you used to have or still have to have for Alexas, you have 8 terabyte included, and they sell this, I think, also separately for $2,000, which sounds like a lot, but it's not a lot if you compare it to the prices of what the storage for an Alexa costs. Yeah.
So quickly about the Pixie.
Pixis.
Pixis, yeah, of course.
Pixis.
Pixies are different.
Pixie is like the small
fairy creatures. Yes, this is a box.
Can I call it Pixie, please? Easier for me.
Pixis.
No. Just about this camera, I think I want to note that finally Blackmagic Design has a box-type camera. This is something that many of us have been asking. Personally, I was not so keen on the older kind of form factor, I mean.
Because it didn't fit in your pocket?
Yeah, but I mean...
Pockets that nobody has.
Yeah, no, this is nicer, this is smoother, it's cleaner. And from that point onward, and I know that some of you guys maybe don't really like the sensor inside and so on, but things, of course, might be changed in the future. And we know Blackmagic Design like to stick to their designs in general, to the camera bodies.
It's a new platform, yeah.
Exactly. So now we have this. Let's see what this is going to take us.
For $3,000 for a Pixis?
Yeah. What's the name of the camera? I'm joking.
For the Pixie. It's $3,000 for the Pixie.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a little bit, almost like a bit of a shame. I wish, I almost find the Ursa CineD 12K to be a little bit too big and heavy for a lot of documentary workflows, and the Pixis is it's the right form factor for many things, but it has the sensor that a lot of people have issues with. I mean, a lot of people complained about that 6K sensor that's in there. So, but I think both of them are really a sign of things to come, because they're really investing so much research and development into just developing cameras.
3 cameras in one go. But let's move on. I think the point is clear.
Yeah. Exciting show for Blackmagic. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just here on our website. That's, status quo. If you go to CineD right now, you see a lot more videos. So, by the way, if you don't realize, every article that has this little arrow here is a video. So, and any of our NAB coverage, of course, has this label. You can also click on that label, and when you click on that label, you get all the articles that we produce and all the videos that we produced during the show. And yeah, as I said, in total, it will be around 54.
And if you're listening to the podcast, it's a little play icon next to all the articles that has a video. Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot about that.
Some people are listening on their commute. Yeah.
It's a little play icon, yeah. So, so we also had Johnny, you did a nice interview about this OFG Custom 65. What is that?
Well, so many people would love to see a Fujifilm cinema camera. And to my surprise, we actually saw one of those, but it's not made by Fujifilm themselves. It made by old.
Old fast glass.
Exactly. I have to be very careful here. Sometimes it can be
No.
with the name too.
They're
misspelled
based
name.
out of LA. Mark, I think, is their CEO.
Yeah, very nice guys, and they literally took the GFX 102, which we know is a very capable camera, up to 8K, and can do a lot of discretes when filming within camera, and they kind of ripped it apart, moved the main LCD screen elsewhere, and added another LCD screen from Atomos, or actually an Atomos device, and they created something which is absolutely manageable and doable to work with. Now, this is a rental-only item right now, but what is really fascinating for me personally, that Fujifilm really encouraged them to do so. I mean, up to the point that they really had a little table within the booth, so people, when they come to see Fujifilm stuff, they could also see this. So it's nice to see that the company, I mean, Fujifilm is very open to ideas like this from creators or people that have the passion to change things. But yeah, that's a nice thing. Let's see, maybe that will encourage Fujifilm to do even more and have their own cinema camera in the future. Who knows?
And you see the excitement. I mean, a lot of people are kind of craving to get a cinema camera with that sensor. So
Yeah.
Well, and it speaks to the culture of the company at Fujifilm that someone went to them and said, "Hey, we're going to rip apart your camera body and make it into a different thing. Are you fine?" And not only they're fine, they're at the booth, at Fujifilm booth. How cool is that?
I can imagine that the answer was, do it.
Yeah, no, clearly. How cool. Yeah.
So let's talk about the smaller stuff. I mean, we had a lot of, actually one mention for the Blackmagic Design Ursa Cine EVF before we finish the topic of Blackmagic. So they introduced a very nice new EVF that goes with their three new cameras.
One cable only, huh?
One cable only, but it's USB-C display port. So essentially you can plug that into your MacBook and have an extended screen of a viewfinder. Now the thing is, they say that you can use that on any camera that can do that. Now, unfortunately, there's not a lot of cameras that can do that. But it would be nice to have an SDI version of that viewfinder, to be honest.
Actually, I would love to keep it USB-C and be able to connect it to as many as possible mirrorless cameras.
If it's possible, yeah.
If it's possible.
Well, I mean, the EVF market has been very quiet. The third-party EVF solutions.
It's been like that forever.
Oh, years and years and years. And some people, depending on when you started camera operating or what have you, are very EVF focused, and that's your preferred way of shooting. Everyone's a little different about that. So
it's hard. It's weird to us. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, that there is no camera, no manufacturer to make a EVF that you can use on any camera. I mean, there are a few, but they are very niche. And
because the culture has changed. That's really, so many are now working with monitors. Mm-hmm. And some companies manage, actually, let's be frank here, Atomos really managed to educate a lot of the younger generation to work with a monitor on the camera. You can see the people going like this, but it's fine. And I've personally, it's me personally, I have no clue how you judge proper exposure like this, and also have another point of support, because when you have the EVF, you have another point of support. But it doesn't matter. It's nice to see another EVF, fresh, small, soft buttons, illuminated buttons, with the potential also to be accessible to other cameras.
Well, it did one interview with Kinefinity about a new EVF. They released a new EVF that is made to be used with any camera, and it's very nice. I don't know if that video is out yet when you listen or watch this, but yeah, it's good. I mean, it's SDI, very small for what it does, similar size actually to the Blackmagic one, same resolution. They have a very very detailed, like the diopter. You can dial in anything you want, like any. But
really when you say with any camera, you mean camera with SDI again?
Yeah, any SDI camera. Yeah, of course. Yeah. That leaves out all the small ones.
Yeah. Do you remember the price points at all on either of the two EVFs? I'm just curious where these are landing.
Well, I think the Blackmagic one is 1,700 if you buy it individually, and the Kinefinity must be similar. It's a little bit less, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what EVF pricing has stayed at for years and years and years. It's somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000.
For many years, the issue was that they couldn't get OLEDs with full HD, but that was years ago. Now you can purchase them even if you're not the camera manufacturer.
Yeah.
Because many of those used to be made only by Sony and so on, but now I think they can buy them from another company. But yeah, I guess like you said, Johnny, there's probably the market is not there. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know either. Yeah, for years my favorite EVF was a Canon EVF, and it's thousands of dollars and only works with a Canon cable protocol.
Yeah.
So very limiting.
Should we talk about what's happening with tripods? There's been quite a few tripod announcements.
Okay, so here's the quiz. Which camera did not introduce a new tripod this year?
Which camera?
Which manufacturer?
Yeah, which manufacturer did not introduce a tripod this year?
You're saying
Blackmagic.
you're saying there's a lot of tripods this year.
This is simply amazing. And the amazing thing is to see how companies are moving from gimbals, and then the next thing, microphones or wireless microphones, and then maybe fog machines. Now it's the
Lights.
like Ice Age. Now it's the age of tripods. So yeah, I think.
And there's a lot of innovation coming out of China now. I mean, I just finished an interview with Falcom, and I was really excited about this tripod. It's similar, like it's a small travel tripod. Like, a lot of people bought the Peak Design one when it came out a couple of years ago, which was extremely successful. And Falcom never made a tripod before. And I mean, it's a photo tripod, but they will introduce a video head. It's very smart. It's very small. It can collapse into nothing, and it's very fast. You can operate almost anything with one hand. You don't have to twist a lot.
I mean, Falcom, Ulanzi, YC Onion, Tilta. Yeah, we have all those companies coming with new tripods. There is also a new tripod from Japan, from Liebek, which is for the price. It's offering quite a lot. But one thing that sets apart the Chinese manufacturers, two things for me. One is the overall design is really getting better and nicer. And the second thing is that if in the past they used to kind of, can we say copy paste? Now it's really changing. They are trying to innovate, and the overall quality of the products are simply getting higher. If I was a traditional a manufacturer of tripods, that's the point that I would start to worry a little bit.
And well, I mean, we saw a lot of consolidation too in Europe and North America around the tripod industry, right? A lot of companies under the same umbrella, and yeah, maybe that quieted innovation here for a while, and now there's an opening. But those are always my favorite releases, where I think, they're like sleeper hits that, oh, wait, this tripod is amazing. What else can be done with the tripod, the humble tripod? Oh, and then here you go. It's great, and it works, and it makes my life easier on set.
Let's talk about the FreeFly camera, the Amber. You did an interview about that.
Yeah, the 2.5K Ember from FreeFly. I mean, lots to talk about here. So when you think about, specs, like what is the peak specification that a camera should have, what should you be most excited about? For a long time we're like dynamic range, resolution. So FreeFly has a higher frame rate capable camera in the 2.5K Ember, but your max resolution is 2.5K when compared to their Ember 5K, which tops out around 800 frames per second, somewhere in that, just off the top of my head. Interestingly, the 2.5K Ember, more expensive, now their flagship, when compared to the 5K Ember. So I don't know if you're following, but it's a little bit of a mind twist there. So if you want just more frames per second, you go Ember 2.5K. If you want more resolution plus still great frames per second, you go Ember 5K. And the reason they said they did this was for scientific technology, enterprise solutions for the studying things, which I thought was interesting.
Car crash test, you need high frame resolution.
Maybe also for filmmakers, obviously, I hope, So it's an interesting camera.
But do you think 2.5K isn't enough for a lot of those shots? I mean, what happens usually, you shoot a show and then there's a couple shots which are in slow motion, and I think it's okay if they're lower res, right? I mean, we still see that on a lot of big programs as well, nature stuff.
Sorry, what is the max? Just to understand what the max is.
2.5K.
2.5K resolution.
That's okay.
In terms of frame rate, I actually don't remember off the top of my head. Maybe we can dive into the article, but I think it's somewhere 2,000 perhaps frames per second.
I think we have an article, but we don't have the video yet. But let me find it.
Don't hold me to this.
You just keep talking.
So
no, but if it is around the 2,000 frames per second, at 2.5K, then I think it's quite impressive. For me, what is also more impressive that this company started with a gimbal thing, if you remember.
Yeah.
I think they're the one.
Movielon.
Exactly, they're the one who actually started the whole craze, and it was amazing to see how, at a certain point in life, they departed altogether from that and started to make cameras, and they also here they looked for a niche market, and I think in a way they nailed it when it comes to.
The Ember.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and the pricing is also very interesting. The 2.5K is $25,000, and the Ember 5K is, I believe, around $18,000. Right? So it's kind of flipped on its head. It's not what you think it would be.
We were publishing too much. Took me a while to find. But yeah, it's 2,900 frames per second in 2K. Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, with an active... oh my God.
It really sounds like the sky will be falling.
This is amazing. I mean,
They're really tearing down this building. That's crazy.
I just hope they know there's still people in it while they're doing it.
That's crazy. And I'm just amazed how buildings are built here in the US. It sounds like, it's like a tent. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so back to the Ember. I mean, some updates to FreeFly's app for controlling the Ember. Now you get live view, at least, coming soon. And then, there's been some discussion online, especially around the dynamic range limitations being around truly about 10 stops probably on both cameras. So you really have to make sure your highlights are in a good spot. And, at $25,000, probably a niche camera for some, but an absolute rental if you need 2,900 frames per second in 2K resolution. So it's just a very interesting product.
Well, it's I don't know the specs of the Phantom Flex cameras, but they have lower end models as well, which are in a similar price range. I remember their high end. Well, it used to be at least high end 4K Phantom Flex 4K with up to 1,000 frames per second. Used to be when I shot with that a couple of years ago, it was like $50,000. So I know they have lower end models, so it's going to be interesting to compare to those.
Yeah, and for those, at least in the United States market, you kind of need a Phantom Tech, we call it. It's a position on set because Phantoms sort of require that. And I'm actually an owner of the Ember 5K myself, and I use an app, and I'm not a Phantom Tech, and I'm able to use the Ember 5K very easily.
Yeah, fair enough. You do that? What are you shooting with it?
Cutaways, B-roll. Yeah. No, I did
interviews. Yeah.
No, I did a kids' science show, and at the end of the science show, all this confetti cannon exploded all over the set, and that was right in the middle of the finale. And
Very cool. Shall we talk about lights? It's been the last couple of years we had lighting shows almost like every news was lights. It changed, right? We don't have as many new lights as we used to have.
Actually, one of the feedbacks that we got a year ago and even 2 years ago that we actually covered too many lights products, but there were that's what there was. There were mainly lights products. This time it was a bit more quiet, I would say. But the big companies, if we talk about Nanlite and Aperture, Astera, yeah, exactly, Godox, we saw a lot of they really, again, quality is getting better, functionality is getting better. All in all, I don't want to talk about a specific product. I mean, Nanlite was supporting us with some giveaways in our booth, which was very welcomed and very nice. But the product that we really liked and also gave it an award was actually from DOP Choice. And the Airglow is a very smart way to put your, and it doesn't matter from which company, 2x1 or 1x1 fixture, but the way it's kind of lying at the bottom at a certain angle, reflecting to their own material, let's say, and then it gives a very nice soft light at you. Yeah, and there's a very nice frame around it. So it's a very nice product. It's really innovative as far as I'm concerned.
And I mean, it looks very compact because, I mean, typically if you were to do like a classic book light, it would be about the size of the couch that we're sitting on right now on set. So that's very, very cool.
So it's like an air mattress, right? Like
it is in a way, of course. And again, the size and it is really good, and you can collapse it nicely. They've been working on this for quite some time, and Yeah, the 2x1 is already here in the market. The 1x1 version of the Airglow is not yet. It will come, but it's a nice innovation.
I mean, Stefan at DOP Choice, that's another company too that keeps surprising me. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, let's make a softbox for a thing, and then no, a completely unexpected product
Well,
out of those guys.
I think they probably have a lot of competition from the light manufacturers themselves who do make modifiers, but they just do modifiers, so they can really focus all their innovation on that. And I think they just, their stuff works with every light. Kind of, they make versions for every light, and some of their stuff works with every light, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
We also gave him one of the Best of Show awards, just to mention here, for this product in the lighting category. So there was no other light that we gave this award to this year. I want to mention just a few lighting products that I saw that stood out for me. I saw the Aperture Infinimat is an interesting take on a product that we've seen from many other manufacturers like Aladdin and many others over the years. Basically, the rollable LED that we've seen. Now, they tackled one problem, which is like when those very thin LED mats have the advantage that you can put them on car ceilings and, like with Velcro, and you will not have them in shot. The problem always being when you make them really large and you want to have them, like here, you would have like a large source on top of you, and you make, I don't know, very large source. They kind of tend to sag in the middle because you need to support them. And then what ends up happening, you put like a grid or something on
Like
it, that
truss.
a truss, and then you lose the advantage of having that thin light, because you could have, you can put up sky panels then as well. It's kind of the same thing. What they did is, in order to still keep it light and relatively easy to build up, they made it an inflatable diffuser that goes in front, and it kind of stabilizes the whole thing, and at the same time is the diffuser. And it's kind of a smart idea of how to tackle that. They showcased it at their booth as well, having a huge one kind of covering the whole booth, and RGB light. It was kind of something new on something we know.
Yeah.
Not
a revolution, but a good innovation, I guess.
Talking about lights, just one thing, because Shape also showed kind of a generator that can work on a solar panel, and they lit it up their whole booth with that thing. Yeah, and it was very impressive. It was a nominee for our show awards. Very nice, very impressive. It's just that it's for very certain kind of niche and for very specific uses. But otherwise, personally, I was very impressed to see with what they came up. Did you see this, by the way?
I didn't, but I spent a little bit of time with Godox, which is sort of the third name in that trio, and they have a new modifier that feels a little for niche uses. It converts their 2400 watt bicolor into a 5-degree beam. So essentially, you can summon Batman with this beam. It has the same sort of spotlight kind of effect of that. But I mean, the trio of Godox, Nanlite, and Aperture and Nanlux, to some extent, watching them kind of push each other over the years has been very good for filmmakers.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you have a favorite maybe out there, but
Nothing to do with favorite, but since you are located in the US, when it comes to rentals, is there any specific preferences here in the like at least on the West Coast, that you are aware of?
well, I mean, Aperture over the last at least 2 to 3 years has moved into the pro market. I'm talking about like the Hollywood rental house sort of establishment. Nanlux is making moves in there, basically by just sort of introducing one gaffer and one DP at a time to their products. And also sort of amongst the established lighting brands, light panels aside, they have a very cool bicolor IP-rated light here. We're not seeing quite the turnover of innovation that honestly led to shows of past being all lighting shows.
Yeah.
But every 2 years seeing, different dimensions, different specs coming out of lighting. So the short answer is yes, Aperture, Nanlux especially moving into the more pro-focused market, at least in traditional Hollywood.
I saw it with Nanlite and Nanlux. I'm always confused which of the products is actually Nanlite and which is Nanlux. But the big lights that were announced last year, I think the Evoke 2400,
Nanlux, yep.
and Nanlux, and then you have equivalents, on the aperture side and so on. That seemed to be extremely popular. I talked to a lot, like I met a couple, because I've been, we did quite a few interviews at the Nanlite booth, and I ran into a couple of gaffers, and they were like, this is everywhere, and a lot of rental houses in the US are stocking them now, because the demand has been so high. And they announced a couple new modifiers for that big light, which are quite interesting. A motorized Fresnel lens, which you can operate through their app, so you can change the the angle,
the distance,
yeah, exactly, everything through the app with a motor, and it's quite quiet, so you can actually operate that while recording sound, which is quite cool. And a lot of different modifiers that they released for that light. You can tell that, and the lead time on that were long because the demand was quite high. So that is definitely replacing a lot of things of traditional hot lights that were still out there.
That's a great point, though, about the Evoke series. And hopping back to Ember for a second, the Evoke, thousands, you could shoot thousands of frames per second with the Evoke series without getting that flicker in high speed. So that's part of it too, I'm sure.
One thing that I found interesting when talking to one of their representatives, like off camera, he mentioned that what a lot of people don't, like they compare the output, like especially gaffers compared to the output to traditional hot lights, just looking at the wattage. But the problem is that when you use a traditional light like an HMI, you have to gel it up in order to change the color, and you lose so much light. You lose so many stops when gelling it up. They never consider this. You don't lose anything if you use an RGB Evoke, or any of those lights. So there is, there's something you need to take into consideration, actually.
Yeah, like the, Airy, say, M40 HMI, not a wide used fixture for many people, but on a Hollywood film, that would be like the moon at night, and you might put that up on a Condor. I cannot wait until that goes LED, right? I feel like manufacturers are coming for HMI technology in a big way, and that's great because I'll stop tripping circuits and then reset.
That will happen very soon.
We actually didn't do a video on it, but one of our show award winners was also DJI for the Focus Pro, which I want to mention. For many years, we've seen their LiDAR technology. I think the debut was with the Ronin 4D, I believe, and then it was introduced to the RS3 gimbal, and everybody was like, "Oh, we need this on any camera," because the thing is, what it does, it essentially can make a cinema lens into an autofocus lens, at least at shorter distances, and it works amazingly well if it's configured properly. And I've used it a lot with smaller cinema lenses on the gimbal, and you can literally have face tracking and have a cinema lens on it, and it works so well.
Is the setup pretty fast, Nino?
It is very fast, and it's become better and better with every generation. So everybody who's been using it, I think, like when people talk about the Ronin 4D, and I said that in my review years ago, that everybody's talking about the chicken head fourth arm because that's the one thing you see, but the biggest innovation in there was, or one of, at least equally innovative was the LiDAR. And because it's just amazing. And now they released the Focus Pro, which is camera independent. You can put that on any camera, and you can make a little nice setup that is actually autofocus with a cine lens, and it works with, it will work of probably up to 85 mil, something like that. It is impressive.
Well, I mean, you brought up the Ronin 4D, and I've loved watching the online chatter about that over the years since your review, because I think, you both loved it out of the gate. I saw you were both in that review. And then right now, Alex Garland's Civil War film comes out, shot entirely on the Ronin 4D.
That's not true. That's actually funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't want to lie to the people.
It's like,
how much of it's shot on the Ronin 4D,
I don't know the percentage, but Johnny's laughing because we got an email.
Can we talk about this on the podcast?
No, I think it's legit to say that the film was for the best of our knowledge, that was shot on a Sony Venice, and I think it's legit.
And also another Sony, I don't remember which one.
But it's legit if the manufacturer is kindly asking to adjust the information to be correct, and this is fine. So of course there were some shots with the.
It was quite a few, yeah.
Yeah, with the DJI.
Ronin 40.
Yeah, but all in all, probably. Yeah,
It
but
was
if
not
you
the
guys,
whole
if you
thing.
have a different information or if you've been in the set, just share with us. We will be very happy.
I think
We are
DJI
kind of a
just
bit in
used
the
this
middle
for
here.
promotion somehow, and yes, a lot of it was shot on the Ronin 40, but not the entire film. And we didn't actually write that the entire film was written on it, but it, you know, like the let's put it that way, the original headline could have been interpreted as if, you know, if you read the article, you realize that it wasn't.
Okay, well, make a chapter headline for this, please, at home in the YouTube video. Because
Yeah.
breaking news here for Graham.
But anyway, so I'm just saying the LiDAR and in general the new focus ecosystem is quite impressive. They also released a new hand unit, like the new motor, which is much quieter. I had a bit, oh my god, sky is falling again. I had a few problems with the motor that shipped with the RS3 because it wasn't as finely adjustable, but now the new one is much better. So it's a much more refined product, and you can see it's just amazing for me, like DJI as a company, how much R&D they put into refining their products, because the RS4 arguably is not a revolution. It's an evolution of the RS3, which is definitely the gimbal that killed most other gimbals. I mean, that's the reason why we don't see many other gimbals anymore, because there is no reason, honestly, not to use that, because it does everything you can think of. And probably better than many of the others, you know. That
Kind of same with drones and UAVs. They've kind of dominated.
Exactly. They just have. They're such a big company. They have so many developers working on stuff, and they just do a great job. You know, like whether you like it or not, it's difficult. They're making life difficult for other manufacturers. And I think the whole focus game in general, I think the high end has not realized yet that autofocus technology doesn't mean autofocus in a sense that it always needs to be face tracking and just, you know, like be automatic. There are ways, like there's an AMF mode, for example. You might know that as from the Canon cameras
it's like
as well.
A shared kind of autofocus and manual.
I think it's called assisted manual focus. So what it does, it can track a face, and the LiDAR has that as well. So you can have face tracking on, but at any point in time, as an operator or as an assistant, you can override it. You can just, for example, let's say we do a tracking shot on a gimbal of your face, and you know, distance changes, it's constantly adjusting. At some point I just decide I want to refocus on an object in the foreground, which wouldn't be possible with the autofocus, except for it maybe tap autofocus, and then you have other problems like how fast does it refocus and so on. But with this, you can just override it. You just turn the barrel or turn the, you know, like actual wheel on the remote, and it can override that, and then it goes back into autofocus when you want it to. So it's a very organic way of working, and once you get your head around it, that's definitely something that all, you know, focus pullers need to take a severe look at, because this is going to come also to higher end units, you know, the Prestons and the C-Motions and so on. It will come. I mean, there are solutions out there, but I think it's going to be mainstream very soon.
Also, arguably the coolest looking booth was DJI for me at the show. Entire subway car in their booth, basically. Did you have a coolest looking booth award, Johnny?
Well, our CineD booth was nice, but maybe
set
we
you
will
up for
do
that.
even better next year. Let me just think which booth I saw that. Talking about booths, maybe I don't have a specific favorite, but talking about NAB in general, it was quite astonishing for me to see some booths were completely full and others were completely empty. It was really, I don't know, usually you have kind of it's a homogenic thing. Yeah, you can see either within the day it's either full or a bit less. Here you could see like the Adobe booth was completely full. Blackmagic Design was quite full. Insta360 was really full. I mean, Tilta was very busy, but then there were other manufacturers. It was actually quite empty. And you know what? I even heard from some manufacturers that they are thinking how to do it next year. I'm saying this out and about like this because this is something that we have to think of. Yeah, if big trade shows still have a place. Because many manufacturers events, I mean, it costs quite a lot of money to have a booth here. And then we know already some companies like Sigma, I think, for example, that decided not to participate this year from whatever reason, which is legit.
Well, point of order on that, Johnny. So the Sigma team had a table at the B&H booth.
Oh, so they were here. That's it. That's
You're a Sigma ambassador,
Yeah, full
so you will
disclosure
know
to
that. Yeah.
no. But I'm saying is that somebody needs to note this, because at the end of the day, when you have a budget, what is better, to be present in such a big show, or split the budget and be on a more local shows? That's the
I think it's
question.
always very hard for us to say. Like I was so wrong with my assumption of how well a show did very often, but of course a lot of it will be marketing, because we will get those high numbers after the show is over and hear how many people were there. But we know a lot of people have maybe 2 or 3 badges with like exhibitor and press like us. Maybe do they double count them? I don't know. But for my feeling, this was the first time the show was at its size from 2019. We also see like the amount of South Hall being the biggest hall was completely full. It's also arguably probably the busiest hall, but it's also one of the halls we attend to less, because it's mostly post-production related, except for Blackmagic Design and maybe Adobe and so on. But we always like in the central hall, which is production technology,
Hardware specific.
exactly. Yeah. And then of course there's a whole West Hall which we haven't even walked to this time, because I don't even know what's in there. But it's so big, it's just very hard to say. I felt like I was surprised that it was still busy on the third day, which is sometimes not the case. Today is very slow. Last day is very slow traditionally, I guess. But my guess is, I don't know. We guess we have a different perception here, but I feel like it's much more than last year. But I might be wrong. We'll see. But definitely, I mean, in general, there's a trend to have smaller shows. A lot of companies actually decide not to exhibit at a big show and then maybe prefer CineGear in LA in a month from now, or 1.5 months from now.
Which you will be covering for us.
Yes, yeah.
Officially asking you, please cover it for us.
Oh yes, yeah.
Now you can't say no. You're on the podcast.
I will be there. Well, I mean, it speaks to who is the market for these different companies, right? Like, and exactly parallel with like pricing. For like an Insta360 average price would attract more people potentially, right? Like, versus say like the Cook booth or something, where every prime is 4,500 for the.
Yeah, it's well, yes and no, because when you go, for example, traditionally to an ARRI booth, it's not necessarily that everybody can buy an ARRI camera, but on the other hand, you know that their clients are very defined.
And it's aspirational, like people want to.
Yeah. Personally, I'm waiting for the day that ARRI will just make an affordable cinema camera. Imagine.
Will never happen.
Will never happen. Okay.
Should we? Okay. Again, should we talk about lenses briefly? I mean, you mentioned the Blazars in the beginning.
Yes, I mean, let's do this briefly. Next to them, I was really impressed to see Atlas coming up with an 18 millimeter anamorphic lens.
2x.
That's right. That's the widest in the market. And always talking to Dan from Atlas, you start to talk about the product, but you get so much more. The gentleman is super, super knowledgeable. He's a very nice person to talk to. And another shout out to Atlas, because they're doing a lot in terms of education in a very consistent way. Yeah, every week, they have a
live stream.
Wednesday, Lens Day, something like that.
And you can really come to the place also. I think they care about the community, and that's very nice. Nisi is also introducing the new lenses. Kind of the Athena is growing, the family is growing. Laowa as the Ranger, but a compact size Rangers, which personally I think they are very, very nice. And I mean, it's a little dream come true to see all of those compact zoom lenses.
I think you didn't mention Blazar also announced an addition to their Remus 33 millimeter full frame, which I am excited about because I shot a lot with the others, which I mentioned on every podcast, and people get annoyed by it. But I was missing that wide angle, so now they have it. For full frame.
Yeah. So, did you see any more lenses?
Well, I mean, I did the Nisi Athena edition of those 3 primes that you sort of alluded to, covering full frame. I thought it was interesting that Nisi is doing G-mount for medium format.
But this is not new. Also, the those focal lengths that are already in the market also have a G-mount version.
Well, it's new for me, and I'm glad that to see support for G-mount in general, because once you kind of buy into that system, I think I have a GFX 100S. I don't have a lot of just optics options. I mean, I got to adapt a lot of stuff, and then there's not always covering the frame basically.
Yeah. And I think we didn't do a video about it, but Johnny, you might know more about it. Sirui Nightwalker
Of
series.
course, how could I forget? Yeah, so now they have the 16 and I think also the 75 millimeter. I mean,
They're
can
new,
quickly
yeah.
check just not to be embarrassed by the whole nation.
But what those are spherical lenses?
Yeah, the spherical lenses, S35, and I'm very excited personally about the 16 millimeter because, yeah, I like to shoot wide angles. There's something magical. Yeah, so it is the 16 and the 75 millimeter Super 35 lenses. I'm very happy to see them. I think the Indiegogo campaign is already running as we speak. We will cover this also by a news post in the next today or tomorrow. But yeah, well done.
Good. I think that's it for lenses-ish. I mean, there's first time in the US also the that size. What are they called? Nano primes. Yeah, I'm sorry for that.
No, that's right.
I reviewed them, so I should know. So they're here for the first time. Very nice, very, nice spherical lenses, which are just very neutral, which is good, which is a change. Like all the others that are coming out now are trying to introduce character in the lenses, which is a big market, of course. But on the other hand, we also need neutral lenses for VFX and just being able to do stuff in post.
And also DZO film, sorry, not that I forget. Also DZO film came with a new set of cinema lenses. We ran a bit out of time. I don't think that we covered those by a video. But yeah, it's just take a look. Maybe you'll find something interesting for you guys. If you like DZO, we know they're doing quite well.
And the Pavos, right, that we reported about a couple of days ago, new focal length additions to their Pavo series,
I'm
which is their 2x anamorphics.
New series, if I'm not mistaken.
So this one we reported like a week ago. Macro 65, 135, and 180.
2XD squeeze, yeah. And and since you brought up the nanos, now news from several months ago, but obviously the SP3s from Cooke. It's sort of a trend towards, I guess, shorter flange cinema primes, we could say.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is pretty neat that in a filmmaking community where it's all about shooting on the iPhone 15, et cetera, there's all these optics options, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
Okay.
iPhone, actually. Should we talk about the Chronos system from Tilta?
Oh, yeah, I didn't do that. Who?
I did the interview. So Tilta introduced a full ecosystem for iPhone accessories. Well, it's actually smartphone. They're going to add other cages for Android as well. But right now it's iPhone. The smart thing about it is that the whole, and we have a video on that, which is not online yet, but the whole system is like a cage around. It's like an aluminum cage around iPhone 15 Pro or Pro Max, and it's like a no cable power delivery. So it works with MagSafe somehow. So you can just attach those. They have accessories. They have like a light. Then they have like a separate smart grip, which is actually also powering. That's the only thing that actually has a cable, because then you can power through the USB, but all the others don't have that. So they, within the cage, just deliver power to all those connecting points, which is nice. So you just plug on a little light and you just take it off. And they put a lot of R&D in that. You can tell also a lot of marketing money, because Claudio Miranda did their launch film, which is actually quite creative, very funny little launch film that they did. It's a sign of things to come. They also added ND filters that you can flip up, which is nice, so you don't always have to take them off. So you just have a magnetic system of adding NDs, and when you don't want to use the ND, you just flip up the thing and just shoot normally and just put it back.
Well, long-time friends and partners, Angelbird too, in a collab with Condor Blue, have a brand new, I'd call it, recording reader to CF Express or SD cards that just affixes right to the back of the iPhone 15 platform too, so you can record just to more standard cards.
Yeah, very simple solution, works very nicely, just magnetic on the back.
Yeah, simply reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more company that I would like, before wrapping up, I think...
I still want to...
Please.
Just one thing about audio, but you go first.
Audio, I would like to mention kind of camera, or let's say AI in general. And I really liked talking again to Michael Gioni from Strada. And this project is really moving forward. And for people who don't know what is Strada, it's like a one-stop shop that can connect different cloud accounts that you have. And you can literally do a lot of stuff from syncing audio and video. But one of the most astonishing things for me is tagging. We know how much we are struggling, especially when you have a lot of material, how much we are struggling to find stuff. So Strada can literally see your video content. It can, so for example, let's say that you're looking for cat playing with a ball. You don't have to write it. The Strada itself will tag everything for you, and then when in the search you just put cat playing with a ball, and it will find the exact place. And this is really amazing for me. The other thing that they do, I don't know how well it is because I haven't touched the software yet, is transcribing and translating to like 100 languages. The idea is that a lot of the stuff is being done before it reaches even the editor. So you can cut on the editor, like how much you pay for your editor, and I think it's genius. I really like the solution. I'm very much looking forward to use it.
I just love what Michael said in, I think it was this interview or former interview that you had with him, that people don't actually tag like manually. You're like, every NLE has the function. Like, like people don't use bins. Like some organized editors will, if it's a big project, of course, but tags, very rarely anybody uses it. Although it's the smartest way of actually grouping things into different topics, right? Because sometimes a clip needs to be in several bins, which is not possible. Final Cut has had this tagging function since the beginning, but I completely agree. Nobody uses it because it's so much work just to do that with all the clips, and having this automated way is just brilliant.
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube and you use tags, can you write that in the comments? Because I want to know if any of you exist. Thank you.
Yeah, and somebody actually told me once that the younger generation doesn't actually use folders on computers because they're used to working with smart devices where you don't really have folders like on an iOS. Like you kind of have folders in this Files app that nobody uses. But, like the only, how do you find files? You search for them. So this is exactly what tags are. That's very smart, yeah.
You wanted to say something about audio before we wrap up?
Yes. So the one audio interview, I don't know if you did any interviews about audio stuff that you liked, but one that I did was with Rode. Rode introduced a couple new things, a new microphone, actually an interview microphone like the ones we are using, that ties in with their Wireless Pro or wireless ecosystem too. You can connect it to any of their wireless receivers, the small ones. Now the cool thing about that microphone is it looks like any of these microphones, but it's like just black, but it has 32-bit float recording built in. So if you have a connection problem, ever drops out or whatever, you have a 32-bit recording inside. This is something we've seen already with many of the wireless clip-on mics. For example, the DJI Mic 2, which, by the way, also got one of our Best of Show awards because that also has a 32-bit float recording built into the sender. Now they also have this with a hand mic, which is nice. And it's also just a smart solution because we used to use the Rode mics a while back, and we had some issues with them with the predecessor model because there was just some usability stuff that didn't work well for us. But now the new ones don't actually use AA batteries anymore. They have a built-in battery. So what you can do is it comes with or I don't know if it's a separate purchase, but there is like a charging dock where you can put two of those mics in, and it's super easy. Yeah, it's just gonna charge it like that. And the other thing is they're also now going into smartphone accessories, which is interesting. And they build a cage for the iPhone 15 Pro, but it's not a cage. You don't need any tools. So it only connects to the camera through the MagSafe. So it's only like attaching to the back. And it's a super fast solution. And they also have a separate little clamp, which is just like a round-shaped magnet that goes on the back of the phone. And that magnet has like 4 connecting points, and for those connecting points they have like little accessories that you can just slide in. So for example, you can have the little shotgun mic on top and just slide it in, or a little light, and it doesn't, like you don't need any tools. And the smart thing about this for me is the problem, you need to be able to use your phone as a phone as well, right? You don't want to actually tighten screws down all the time and then untighten them. So what that allows is just you put it on and you take it off when you don't need it. So that's a smart way of thinking.
That's clever.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes back to what you mentioned earlier, Nino, that the embrace of the iPhone 15 specifically as a viable filmmaking tool by a lot of brands. Atomos, Rode, Tilta, and a bunch of other ones.
Should we wrap it up here?
I think. Otherwise, we can speak at least until next year.
Florian and Batu behind the cameras already sleep. No,
we also actually have to catch the flight.
Oh yeah, we have to go to the airport now. Yay!
Oh, this was nice though, guys.
Graham, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining. You should join more regularly on the normal podcast.
Jackie,
I would love that. Yeah.
You just have to get up really early because we record in the morning in Europe. So.
Oh no, I would hate that part. Maybe we'll meet in the middle or
We'll
something.
see. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Nino, thank you very much.
See you guys in person in a year.
Oh, at the latest, but I guess it's going to be in a year. Yeah.
Maybe.
The older you get, the faster it goes.
That's true.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you check out our NAB coverage. As we said, there's going to be a lot more videos coming in the next couple of days or even weeks. And if you have any questions and any suggestions for topics or whatever you want to know, just email podcast@cined.com. We'll get back to you. And yeah, thank you.
Whatever you want to see next NAB, just write in the comment. We try to make sure it's maybe happening.
Yeah.
It's ambitious.
And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere, not only on YouTube. We appreciate it. Yeah.
Do you use tags? No, you don't.
Tags.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.